A corroded bronze lump holds the key to a 2,000-year-old secret. This is the story of the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient device that predicted the movements of the cosmos with perfect accuracy. By the end of this journey, you will understand how a single discovery rewrites our entire view of scientific history. How could a hand-cranked machine from the ancient world perform calculations so advanced they would not be seen again for over a millennium? And what does its silent existence tell us about the brilliance we have forgotten? What does it mean to find a message from the past that we are only now smart enough to read? The year was 1901, and a group of sponge divers were seeking refuge from a sudden Mediterranean storm. They anchored near the small, rocky island of Antikythera, and when the weather cleared, one of them decided to explore the depths below. What he saw through his helmet's glass window must have stolen his breath. The seafloor was littered with the ghostly shapes of statues, their marble limbs reaching up through the silt as if from a sunken dream. This was no ordinary reef. They had accidentally discovered a Roman merchant ship that had met its end over 2,000 years earlier, a time capsule resting in the silent dark. The subsequent recovery efforts were perilous, with divers risking their health in the deep, cold waters to bring up a king's ransom in ancient art. Bronze and marble figures emerged, along with glassware, coins, and jewelry. And among these obvious treasures, they also hauled up what appeared to be a worthless piece of junk, a lump of green, corroded bronze about the size of a large book, with what looked like fragments of wood clinging to it. It was set aside, catalogued vaguely, and largely forgotten. To the archaeologists of the era, preoccupied with magnificent sculptures, this corroded block was a curiosity at best, a piece of the ship's equipment at worst. They could not have known they were holding the most technologically sophisticated object to survive from the ancient world. It would take over half a century and a revolution in imaging technology for the truth to finally emerge. When researchers finally subjected the lump to X-ray analysis, the shadows on the film revealed an impossible sight. Inside that solid-seeming crust of corrosion was a precise clockwork universe, a dense forest of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth finer than a millimeter. Delicate inscriptions, thousands of tiny Greek characters, covered its surfaces like a secret manual. This was not a statue or an amphora, it was a machine. A complex, geared calculator built with a precision that historians believed was utterly impossible for its time. The Antikythera mechanism, as it came to be called, had been waiting on the ocean floor for 2 millennia, silently holding a secret that would force us to rewrite the history of human ingenuity. For decades, that mysterious bronze lump simply gathered dust in a museum storeroom. Then a British physicist named Derek de Solla Price saw an X-ray image, and the world changed. Where others saw only corrosion, Price saw geometry. He saw interlocking circles and calculated angles. In the 1950s, armed with little more than gamma-ray photographs and a brilliant, stubborn intuition, he made a declaration that sounded like science fiction. He proposed that the Antikythera mechanism was nothing less than a mechanical computer designed to model the cosmos. This was not a tool for sailors to find their way. This was a philosopher's instrument, a cosmic calculator built to predict the complex dance of celestial bodies. Price's initial analysis suggested it could track the sun and the moon, calculating their positions with a turn of a hand crank. Imagine that for a moment. The prevailing view of ancient technology was one of simple machines, levers, and pulleys. Yet here was evidence of a device with a complexity that would not be matched until the great astronomical clocks of medieval Europe over 1,000 years later. Price's hypothesis was a seismic shift. It transformed the artifact from a museum curiosity into a profound historical puzzle. he had provided the first key, suggesting the ancient Greeks didn't just observe the heavens, they sought to mechanize them. This was a civilization thinking in gears and cycles, attempting to build a working model of reality itself. His work set the stage, but the true depth of the machine's genius was still locked inside, waiting for tools that could see through time. Inside that tarnished shell was a miniature cosmos engineered in bronze. The heart of the Antikythera mechanism is its gearing, a dense, intricate puzzle of over 30 interlocking wheels, each one precisely cut by a master artisan's hand. Some of these bronze gears are astonishingly small, with teeth finer than a grain of rice, a testament to a level of craftsmanship that defies our expectations for the ancient world. But this was not just a display of skill, it was a display of profound scientific understanding. These gears were arranged in a specific, purposeful sequence to model the mathematics of the heavens. They formed what engineers now call a differential gear system, a complex arrangement that can add or subtract rotational speeds to calculate a precise result. This technology was believed to have been invented for automobiles in the 16th century, yet here it was, fully realized, in a device that sank beneath the waves before the birth of Christ. Think of it as the first known analog computer. You would turn a hand crank, which was the input. That motion would travel through this sophisticated network of gears, each ratio carefully chosen to represent a specific celestial cycle. The slow, graceful turn of one gear might correspond to the moon's monthly orbit, while another, meshing with it at a different ratio, could account for the subtle variations in that orbit. The output was a prediction, a pointer on a dial showing where a planet would be on a specific date, or when the next eclipse would darken the sky. This means the ancient Greeks did not merely chart the stars, they built a machine to simulate them. The very existence of this differential gear implies something staggering, a lost lineage of mechanical knowledge. It suggests workshops where such devices were conceived, drafted, and perfected, a secret science of gears and cycles that flourished and then vanished, leaving almost no trace in the historical record. For over 1,000 years, this level of engineering sophistication simply disappears, as if the knowledge was swallowed by the sea alongside the mechanism itself. Its corroded cogs are not just components, they are silent witnesses to a peak of ancient technology we are only beginning to comprehend. But the gears were only half the story. The true voice of the mechanism speaks through its words, etched across its front and back plates, and on the tiny fragments that survived are thousands of microscopic Greek characters, a faded user's manual written directly onto the bronze. For decades, this text was an unreadable secret, the letters blurred by corrosion and the passage of 2,000 years. It took a new kind of vision to finally read them. Advanced imaging techniques, originally developed for medical scans and satellite mapping, were turned on these ancient fragments. Layer by digital layer, researchers peeled back the crust of time, and the inscriptions began to emerge with stunning clarity. This was not random decoration. It was a comprehensive guide, a technical manual explaining the cosmos this machine contained. The text names stars and constellations, listing them in a precise catalogue. It details the complex cycles of planets, giving the mathematical relationships, called period relations, that govern their wanderings. Most remarkably, it describes how to predict eclipses, labeling certain dates with the word eclipses, eclipse, and even noting the characteristic color and direction of the shadow, information that hinted at whether it would be lunar or solar. This manual transforms our understanding of the device's purpose. It was not a secret instrument for a lone genius. The text is clearly written to instruct, to explain. This suggests the Antikythera mechanism was an educational masterpiece, a demonstrative tool built to teach a fundamental philosophical idea of Hellenistic science, that the heavens are not a chaotic realm of gods and omens, but a vast, orderly, and predictable system. By turning the crank and watching the dials align with the inscriptions, a student wouldn't just learn an astronomical fact, they would experience a profound truth, the universe operating by knowable mechanical law. The machine was a teacher, and its lesson was written in bronze for anyone patient enough to decipher it. The most breathtaking proof of its genius lies in its power to predict darkness. Among all its functions, the Antikythera mechanism's ability to forecast eclipses stands as its crowning achievement. This was no simple calendar of full moons. Eclipses are incredibly tricky to predict because the moon's orbit is not a perfect circle. It wobbles slightly in its path around Earth. To account for this irregularity, known as the lunar anomaly, the ancient engineers performed a stroke of mechanical brilliance. On one of the central gears, they fashioned a pin that slid within a curved slot on another gear. As the gears turned, this pin and slot arrangement subtly sped up and slowed down the rotation, perfectly mimicking the moon's variable speed in the sky. It was a physical equation built from bronze, capturing a celestial imperfection with stunning accuracy. With this elegant solution, the machine could calculate the precise moments when the sun, Earth, and moon would align to cast their shadows. But it went further. The inscriptions on the eclipse dial, recovered through advanced imaging, do not just list dates, they categorize, they specify whether an event would be a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse. They even note the expected color of the shadow, with words hinting at a dusky red or a deep black. To us, this color might indicate atmospheric conditions. To the ancient Greeks and Babylonians, it carried a weight of meaning, an omen to be interpreted for the fate of kings and empires. This reveals the mechanism's true nature as a bridge between two great scientific traditions. Its mathematical heart beats with Babylonian rhythm, using precise cyclical data for lunar and solar motions meticulously recorded by astronomers over centuries. This raw data was then sculpted by Greek geometrical theory and mechanical philosophy into a tangible, turning model of the cosmos. The machine is a synthesis, a physical manifestation of celestial harmony that could, with a turn of a crank, foretell a dramatic sky event years in advance. It transformed the terrifying spectacle of an eclipse from a sudden act of the gods into a scheduled entry in a cosmic ledger, a profound shift from superstition to calculated understanding. Yet the mechanism's ambition reached far beyond the moon and sun. It appears to have modeled the entire known solar system. Hidden within its gearing, researchers have found evidence for the five wanderers, the planets visible to the naked eye: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Each one would have demanded its own dedicated assembly of gears, a miniature mechanical mind devoted to a single point of light in the night sky. This presented the ancient builders with their greatest challenge, because planets do not behave like the sun and moon. From our earthly perspective, they periodically perform a strange celestial dance, slowing down, stopping, and tracing a temporary loop backward against the stars before resuming their forward march. This is retrograde motion, a cosmic illusion created as our own orbiting Earth overtakes a slower outer planet or is overtaken by a faster inner one. To predict this wandering, the Greeks used a concept called epicyclic theory. Imagine a planet moving on a small, spinning circle, like a child on a merry-go-round. Now picture the center of that small circle itself traveling along a larger, slower circle around the Earth. The resulting path is a series of elegant loops, a geometric solution to the puzzle in the sky. The true genius of the Antikythera mechanism is that it translated this pure geometry into moving metal. To model a single planet's retrograde loop required not one, but multiple interlocking gears working in concert, one set simulating the large orbital circle and another, nested within that motion, simulating the small epicyclic whirl. The mental leap this represents is staggering. It means the creators did not just observe the planets, they deconstructed their apparent chaos into a system of perfect, interlocking circles, and then they built those circles. They took an abstract mathematical theory of the universe and gave it physical form, so that by turning a handle, you could watch the theory play out in real time, watching Mars begin its backward loop on schedule. No other artifact from antiquity comes close to this synthesis of deep cosmic understanding and precision engineering. It stands alone, a silent orrery whispering the secrets of a universe governed by rule and rhythm. But the mechanism was never just a cold calculator of the stars. On its front face, among the dials tracking planets and eclipses, was a circle dedicated to something profoundly human. This was the Olympiad dial, a 4-year calendar counting down to the greatest event in the ancient Greek world, the Olympic Games. With a turn of the crank, you could see not just when the moon would eclipse the sun, but when the finest athletes would gather to compete. This single feature transforms our understanding of the device's purpose. It ties the grand, impersonal clockwork of the heavens directly to the beating heart of human culture. The festivals at Olympia, Delphi, Nemea, and Isthmia were more than sporting events. They were sacred gatherings that defined Greek identity, times when conflict was paused and communities came together in shared celebration. By including this dial, the creators made a profound philosophical statement. They were saying that the rhythm of human society, our most important cultural ceremonies, were not separate from the cosmos but were woven into its very fabric. The same mathematical order that governed the planets also governed the cycle of the games. Imagine a philosopher or a student using this machine. They would see a perfect synchronization, the pointer for the next Olympiad advancing in lockstep with the pointers for Saturn and Venus. This visual link taught a powerful lesson that human time and cosmic time were part of one grand, intelligible, and harmonious system. The mechanism was a bridge between the celestial and the civic, proving that to understand the universe was also to understand the sacred schedule of one's own civilization. It wasn't just predicting eclipses, it was illustrating a world where everything from a sprinter's victory to a planet's retrograde loop followed a beautiful and predictable order. To achieve this breathtaking long-range prediction, the mechanism's creators turned to a secret embedded in ancient clay tablets. They harnessed two powerful astronomical cycles discovered by Babylonian sky watchers centuries earlier, the Saros and the Exeligmos. The Saros cycle is a period of approximately 18 years and 11 days, a rhythm after which the Sun, Earth, and Moon return to nearly the same geometric alignment. If you witnessed a solar eclipse, you could be confident that another very similar eclipse would occur one Saros cycle later. The Babylonians meticulously recorded these patterns, building a vast empirical database of celestial events through patient observation over generations. The Greek engineers took this raw data and gave it physical form. They calculated a gear ratio that would advance a pointer on a dial by exactly one division every Saros cycle, creating a rolling calendar of eclipse possibilities. But they didn't stop there. They incorporated a second, more refined cycle known as the Exeligmos, which is precisely triple the Saros, lasting about 54 years and 1 month. This longer cycle was the key to perfection. While a Saros cycle predicts that an eclipse will recur, the Exeligmos cycle refines the prediction, accounting for the slight shift in the Earth's rotation to accurately forecast not just the date, but the precise location on Earth where the eclipse shadow would be visible. By building both cycles into the machine's gearing, the mechanism could generate a reliable eclipse calendar stretching decades, even centuries, into the future. This integration is a profound moment in the history of science. It represents a cosmopolitan fusion of intellect, where the meticulous, data-driven legacy of Mesopotamian astronomy was seamlessly married to Greek geometrical theory and mechanical genius. The machine is a physical testament to a connected ancient world of ideas, where knowledge flowed across empires and was synthesized into something greater than the sum of its parts. It wasn't just a Greek device, it was a global achievement, a bronze brain that thought with the wisdom of two great civilizations to master the timing of cosmic darkness. At the very heart of the mechanism's front face was a map of the sky itself. This was the Zodiac dial, a stunningly precise ring divided into the 12 familiar constellations of the Greek zodiac from Aries to Pisces. A delicate pointer, driven by the central clockwork, would slowly sweep across this golden band, completing one full revolution every 365 days. With a simple turn of the crank, a user could find the sun's exact position against the backdrop of the stars for any date they chose. This was far more than a decorative feature, it was a masterful solar calendar. In a world before printed almanacs, it provided an immediate and accurate answer to a fundamental question: where is the sun in its yearly journey today? But the dial's purpose ran deeper than mere timekeeping. In the Hellenistic worldview, the zodiac was not just a star map, it was a stage upon which human destinies were thought to be written. The precise moment the sun entered a new sign, or its relationship to the moon and planets on a given date, was considered rich with meaning for events on Earth, from the outcome of a harvest to the fate of a newborn child. What we might separate today as astronomy and astrology were, for the mechanism's creators, two sides of the same profound inquiry, a unified science of celestial influence. By physically linking the calendar date to the sun's zodiacal position, the machine made this cosmic connection tangible. It presented a universe where human time was not an arbitrary count of days, but an integral thread woven into the vast, turning tapestry of the heavens. The zodiac dial thus embodies the mechanism's ultimate ambition to be a complete cosmic interface. It didn't just calculate, it interpreted. It allowed a philosopher to see not only when an eclipse would occur, but in which constellation it would happen, layering the event with potential significance. This blending of precise prediction and symbolic meaning shows us that for the ancient Greeks, understanding the universe was about more than mechanics. It was about seeking one's place within a living, meaningful cosmos. Yet another challenge awaited the builders, one that had vexed civilizations for millennia. How do you make a calendar when your two most important timekeepers, the sun and the moon, refuse to agree? A solar year is about 365 days. 12 lunar months only add up to about 354 days. That 11-day gap might seem small, but over a few years, your lunar months would drift completely out of sync with the seasons. Festivals meant for spring would slowly slide into summer, then autumn. For societies whose religious life and agricultural cycles were tied to both the moon and the sun, this was a profound problem of cosmic disorder. The Antikythera mechanism solved it with mechanical elegance. On the back of the device, researchers discovered a remarkable spiral dial, a bit like a coiled snake, designed to track not days but 19-year cycles. This was the Metonic cycle, named for the ancient Athenian astronomer Meton. He observed that after 19 solar years, the phases of the moon will repeat on almost exactly the same calendar dates. It was a key to locking the moon and sun back together. The mechanism's gearing counted these 19-year periods with a pointer that slowly advanced along the spiral's groove. But the Greeks sought even greater precision. Their astronomer Calipus later refined the cycle, noting that 4 Metonic cycles, or 76 years, created a near-perfect alignment. The mechanism's designers honored this refinement too, incorporating the Calippic cycle into the machine's grand calculation. With a turn of the crank, a user could see exactly where they stood within these long celestial rhythms. This was not abstract astronomy, it was a vital civic and religious tool. Many of the most important festivals in the Greek world, like the Panathenaea in Athens, were scheduled by the moon. So were the months themselves. By accurately predicting the phase of the moon for any given date years in advance, the mechanism became an indispensable administrative device. A priest or a city official could consult it to set the calendar with authority, ensuring that the sacred rites were performed at their cosmically correct moment. It guaranteed that the harvest festival always fell after the harvest, and the rites of spring welcomed the actual spring. In this way, the machine did more than predict, it presided. It provided the temporal framework that held society in harmony with the heavens, weaving the irregular pulse of lunar months into the steady beat of solar years. This spiral dial on the back reveals a machine deeply embedded in the practical and spiritual life of its time, a bronze brain tasked with maintaining the sacred order of the world. The true miracle of this device lies not just in its design, but in the hands that built it. To construct the Antikythera mechanism required a symphony of ancient crafts, each performed at the very limits of what was thought possible for its time. The process began with a sculptor, likely working in beeswax, carefully shaping a model of a single, intricate gear. This wax model would then be encased in clay to create a mold. The wax melted and drained away, leaving a hollow cavity in its exact shape. Molten bronze, a mixture of copper and tin, was poured into this cavity. Once cooled, the clay mold was broken away to reveal a rough bronze copy of that wax original. This is the Lost Wax method, a technique known for millennia, but here pushed to an extreme. The gears that emerged were tiny, some no larger than a modern coin, with triangular teeth that had to mesh perfectly with their neighbors. A master metalworker would then take this cast gear and begin the painstaking work of hand finishing. Using small, sharp files, they would refine each tooth, removing imperfections and bringing the gear to a sub-millimeter tolerance. This was not mass production, this was horology, the art of precision timekeeping, appearing over 1,000 years before the great clockmakers of Europe. The plates that held this delicate universe were also bronze, and upon them, another artisan performed a feat of microscopic writing. Using a hardened steel beryl, a kind of engraving tool, they inscribed thousands of Greek characters directly onto the metal. Each letter was less than 2 millimeters high, a testament to an engraver with supremely steady hands and exceptional eyesight. This was not merely labeling, it was the permanent etching of a complex technical manual. Finally, this entire assembly of gleaming bronze gears and plates was housed within a wooden case, likely crafted from fine-grained oak or cedar, with doors that opened to reveal the cosmic clockwork inside. The sheer quality of every component tells a profound story. This level of consistent, flawless workmanship does not happen by accident. It suggests the mechanism was not a lone experiment, a brilliant prototype hammered out in a back room. It was almost certainly the product of an established workshop, a place where master craftsmen, astronomers, and philosophers collaborated. This implies a hidden tradition of fine mechanical instrument making in the Hellenistic world, a school of thought and craft that has left virtually no other traces for us to find. The Antikythera mechanism is therefore a solitary survivor, a single, breathtaking page from a vast lost library of ancient engineering. Its very existence whispers of a forgotten industrial art, where the abstract beauty of mathematics was given permanent, tangible form in bronze and wood. The identity of its creator is a mystery as deep as the machine itself. We know the hands that assembled it were those of a master craftsman, but the mind that conceived its brilliant design remains anonymous, lost to the centuries. Yet, by studying the mechanism's intricate soul, scholars have drawn compelling connections to the greatest scientific minds of the ancient world. The most tantalizing possibility points to the legendary Archimedes of Syracuse. Ancient texts describe him constructing a sophisticated planetarium, a sphere that modeled the motions of the sun, moon, and planets, which was carried as a prize to Rome after his passing. The Antikythera mechanism is precisely the kind of breathtaking mechanical achievement that matches his legendary ingenuity. Another compelling candidate is Hipparchus of Rhodes, the father of trigonometry, who worked in the 2nd century before the Common Era. He discovered the subtle wobble in the Moon's orbit, that very lunar anomaly the mechanism so elegantly corrects for with its pin and slot gear. The device seems to physically embody his mathematical insights. The shipwreck itself provides crucial clues, dating to between 70 and 60 years before the Common Era, a peak period of Hellenistic science when such a synthesis of knowledge was possible. Its cargo of luxury goods suggests it was traveling from the Eastern Greek world toward Rome, perhaps carrying treasures for a wealthy patron. This points to vibrant intellectual centers like Rhodes, a renowned hub for astronomy and engineering, or the great library city of Alexandria, or the Kingdom of Pergamon. What becomes clear is that this was not the work of a lone genius in isolation. The mechanism's fusion of Babylonian cyclical data, Greek geometrical theory, and unparalleled craftsmanship speaks of a network. It hints at a collaborative culture where philosophers, astronomers, and artisans worked in concert, sharing discoveries across the Mediterranean. The machine is a physical node in that lost web of knowledge, a testament to a forgotten era when the greatest minds sought not just to understand the cosmos, but to build a working model of it in bronze. Its solitary existence is a whisper of forgotten genius. The Antikythera mechanism stands not just as an ancient wonder, but as a profound technological anomaly, a device that seems to have fallen out of its own time. In the entire archaeological record, across continents and cultures, we find nothing else like it for well over 1,000 years. The next objects to approach its mechanical sophistication are the great cathedral clocks of medieval Europe, like the one built in Strasbourg in the 1300s. Between the sinking of this Greek ship and the chiming of those European bells stretches a vast silence, a gap in the historical timeline that forces us to question everything we think we know about progress. How could something so advanced simply vanish? The most haunting possibility is that this machine was not a miraculous one-off. Its flawless craftsmanship suggests the work of a mature workshop, a school of thought. Perhaps it was the pinnacle of a rich tradition of geared instruments, a tradition that flourished in the libraries and workshops of Alexandria, Rhodes, or Pergamon. These would have been places where philosophers debated celestial cycles and artisans turned those theories into tangible bronze. Yet if such a tradition existed, where is the rest of its work? The answer may lie in the fragility of history itself. Bronze was a precious material, often melted down for weapons or coinage in times of conflict. The wooden cases and delicate papyrus manuals that accompanied such devices would have rotted away to nothing. The knowledge itself, passed from master to apprentice in closed workshops, could have been extinguished by a single period of social upheaval, the sacking of a great city, or simply a shift in intellectual fashion away from mechanical models of the cosmos. This means the Antikythera mechanism may be our only surviving witness to a lost golden age of ancient engineering. Its discovery shatters the comforting, linear narrative of human advancement, the idea that technology moves in a steady, upward climb from simple to complex. Instead, it reveals a landscape of brilliant peaks and deep valleys where knowledge can reach astonishing heights only to be forgotten, waiting centuries to be rediscovered. This single artifact teaches us that progress is not a guaranteed march forward, but a fragile flame, one that can burn brightly and then, for reasons lost to time, flicker and go dark. The corroded bronze shell held its secrets tightly for 2,000 years. Our modern eyes, however, learn to see in ways the ancients never could. The final, decisive breakthrough in understanding the Antikythera mechanism arrived not with a new theory, but with a new kind of vision. In the early 2000s, an international team of researchers turned the most advanced medical and industrial imaging tools on the fragile fragments. They employed a technique called microfocus X-ray computed tomography, a process that builds a three-dimensional picture slice by incredibly thin slice. just like a hospital CT scan, but with a resolution fine enough to capture the shadow of a single gear tooth. For the first time, they could peer directly through the centuries of mineral crust and see the machine's intricate soul without ever touching a chisel. The digital reconstructions that emerged were breathtaking. Where earlier gamma-ray images had shown ghostly outlines, the new scans revealed the gears in crisp, three-dimensional clarity. They could count the precise number of teeth on wheels that had been completely hidden from view, some with counts as high as 223. They traced the paths of pins sliding in curved slots, confirming the elegant solution for the moon's irregular motion. Most remarkably, the surface imaging techniques, using a form of polynomial texture mapping, acted like a kind of photographic time machine. They captured the texture of the surfaces under raking light from dozens of angles, and software then flattened and enhanced the images. Letters that were utterly invisible to the naked eye, worn smooth by time and seawater, suddenly swam into focus on a computer screen. Thousands of Greek characters, the mechanism's voice, were recovered word by painstaking word. This flood of new data did more than just answer old questions. It allowed researchers to perform a kind of mechanical resurrection. Using the precise measurements from the scans, they constructed stunningly accurate digital simulations and even physical, working models in brass and steel. They could finally test the theoretical gear trains proposed by scholars like Derek de Solla Price. They could turn a virtual crank and watch on screen as pointers advanced across Zodiac dials and eclipse calendars clicked into place, matching the timings described in the inscriptions. What had been brilliant speculation for decades was now demonstrable mechanical reality. The machine, silent for millennia, was made to speak again, not through guesswork, but through the perfect marriage of ancient ingenuity and 21st century sight. This technological dialogue across time proved, beyond any doubt, that the cosmos the Greeks imagined was one they could also build. That worldview is captured in the very word they used for the universe, cosmos. For the Greeks, this term meant far more than just the physical world. It carried a sense of perfect order, arrangement, and even beauty, like a jeweled ornament. The stars did not wander randomly. They moved in predictable, elegant paths. The seasons returned on schedule. Eclipses, though dramatic, followed a hidden rhythm. This celestial regularity was not seen as cold mechanics, but as the visible expression of a divine and rational mind. The heavens were the ultimate testament to a universe built on logic, a grand design that human reason could, in principle, understand. The Antikythera mechanism is the breathtaking physical proof of that principle in action. It was not merely a calculator, it was a philosophical argument cast in bronze. By building a machine whose turning gears mirrored the turning heavens, its creators made an audacious statement that the logic of the gods was not a mystery to be feared, but a puzzle to be solved, and its solution could be held in your hands. This was the embodiment of an ideal they called techn, a word that beautifully combines knowledge, art, and craft. It represents the moment abstract understanding is transformed through skill into a tangible object. The mechanism is the ultimate techn, where the mathematical theories of philosophers and the empirical data of astronomers were synthesized by the steady hand of a master artisan into a single, wondrous device. To use it was to participate in that harmony. As you turned the crank and watched the pointers advance, you weren't just getting an answer, you were witnessing a miniature, perfect cosmos operating by the same rational rules as the real one. It was a demonstrative toy for the mind, proving that human ingenuity could replicate, on a small scale, the very order of creation itself. In this light, the machine becomes a sacred object of a new kind of faith, a faith in the power of human reason to decode the universe. Yet the storm that claimed the ship also sealed the mechanism's fate in a twist of profound historical irony. The vessel was a floating gallery of the ancient world's finest arts. Alongside the bronze and marble statues, delicate glassware shimmered, and coins and jewelry spoke of immense wealth. This was not a common trader hauling grain or olive oil. It was a specialized transport, a luxury liner of its day, carrying a curated collection of Greek splendor to the heart of the rising Roman Republic. The Antikythera mechanism resting among these treasures was almost certainly part of that elite consignment. It may have been a commissioned masterpiece for a Roman noble fascinated by Greek science, or perhaps a dazzling diplomatic gift meant to awe a foreign dignitary with the sophistication of Hellenistic culture. In either case, its presence tells us it was an object of staggering value, both in the cost of its materials and craftsmanship, and in the priceless knowledge it contained. Its worth was intellectual, a trophy of the mind. This context makes its loss all the more poignant, and its preservation all the more miraculous. Had the ship reached its destination, the mechanism's ultimate fate is a chilling thought. It might have been displayed in a Roman villa for a generation, then forgotten in an attic. More likely, during one of the many conflicts that would rack the empire in the centuries to come, its precious bronze would have been melted down for weapons or coinage, its unique genius reduced to raw material. The wooden case would have rotted, the papyrus instructions turned to dust. The storm that sent it to the seafloor was a catastrophe for its owners, but for history, it was an act of perfect preservation. The cold, dark, oxygen-poor mud of the Mediterranean seabed created a time capsule, encasing the delicate gears in a protective crust of corrosion and sediment. It hid the device from the relentless recycling of war and time, safeguarding this pinnacle of ancient science not for its own age, but for an age 2,000 years in the future, an age that would develop the tools to see inside it, and finally, the curiosity to understand what it meant. The mechanism's journey is a story of how loss can sometimes be the only way to save something forever. The true test of understanding is to rebuild, to prove the digital models and theoretical gear trains were not just clever guesses. Teams of researchers and master craftsmen around the world have undertaken an extraordinary task to reconstruct the Antikythera mechanism from scratch. Using the precise data from the high-resolution scans, they have fashioned full-scale, working replicas in brass and steel, each one a physical experiment in ancient thinking. The goal was not merely to create a museum display, but to confront the same practical challenges the original Greek engineers would have faced, challenges no computer simulation can fully reveal. They had to account for the thermal expansion of metal, as the gears would subtly change size with temperature, potentially jamming the delicate works. They experimented with ancient lubricants like olive oil to reduce friction and wear on those finely cut teeth. They felt firsthand the precision required to mesh 30 interlocking gears without binding, a task demanding tolerances of less than a millimeter, achieved 2 millennia ago with hand files and unwavering patience. Turning the crank on one of these modern reconstructions is a moment of profound connection. You feel a slight resistance, a smooth mechanical purr as the gears engage. You watch the pointers glide across their dials, the moon phase indicator turn, and the eclipse calendar advance with a soft click. It is no longer an abstract concept. It is a machine in your hand, performing its ancient dance exactly as theorized. These tangible models validate the centuries of scholarship in the most satisfying way possible by making the cosmos turn. They prove the device was not only imaginable, it was utterly feasible with the technology of its time. Each successful reconstruction is a silent tribute to those lost workshops, a demonstration that the genius of the Antikythera mechanism was not a fluke of preservation, but a pinnacle of a real and achievable art. That final turn of the crank on a modern replica echoes through the centuries. We call the Antikythera mechanism the world's first analog computer, and that label is far more than a catchy title. It is a direct line of intellectual descent. Its core principle is the very foundation of computing, using a physical system, in this case a network of bronze gears, to process information according to a predefined program. The program was not written in code, but was literally forged into the machine itself through the precise ratios of its interlocking wheels. Input a date by turning a hand crank, and the system processes that input through its geared logic, ultimately producing an output, the predicted position of a planet or the timing of an eclipse. This is computation in its purest, most tangible form. The legacy of this idea slept for nearly 2 millennia, waiting for a mind capable of reimagining it on a grander scale. That mind belonged to Charles Babbage in the 19th century. His visionary difference engine, a colossal apparatus of brass and steel designed to calculate mathematical tables, operated on the same fundamental principle, mechanical calculation through precise gearing. Babbage had no knowledge of the Antikythera mechanism. It was still buried in museum storage, yet he arrived at the same profound insight that complex mathematics could be automated through machinery. This parallel invention across 2,000 years reveals a powerful truth, that the drive to build machines that think, or at least calculate, is a deep and recurring current in human ingenuity. The thread connects directly from those ancient Greek workshops to the room-sized vacuum tube computers of the mid-20th century, and finally to the silent, unimaginably powerful silicon chips we carry in our pockets today. Every time your smartphone displays a weather forecast or maps the stars in an app, it is fulfilling the same essential promise first made by that corroded bronze box, using a programmed system to model reality and predict an outcome. The mechanism's true legacy is not a specific gear train, but the audacious idea it represents, our enduring quest to externalize our understanding, to build mirrors of the universe that we can hold in our hands and by doing so comprehend our place within it. Even now, after so many years of intense study, the mechanism refuses to surrender all its secrets. The fragments we have are just that, fragments, and their incompleteness teases us with profound questions. We know it modeled the sun, moon, and planets, but was its ambition even greater? Could missing pieces have once calculated the rhythmic pull of the tides, a phenomenon well known to coastal Greek communities? The precise arrangement of the planetary gear trains, especially for Venus and Mercury, is still a subject of lively debate among researchers, with different teams proposing subtly different reconstructions based on the same cryptic evidence. And perhaps the most haunting question of all, was this magnificent object truly one of a kind? Its flawless craftsmanship suggests it came from a tradition, a workshop that must have produced other instruments. Could there have been simpler, more common versions, teaching tools or demonstration models made of cheaper materials that simply decayed away to nothing, leaving no trace for us to find? The search for answers is far from over. International teams continue to bring the most advanced tools in the world to bear on these ancient pieces. Techniques like neutron imaging, which can see different elemental compositions within the crust, and ever more refined polynomial texture mapping, are being used to peer deeper into the corrosion. Each new scan is an act of technological archaeology, hoping to detect the faintest shadow of a lost gear tooth, or to coax a few more Greek letters from a surface worn smooth by time. This 2,000-year-old puzzle, therefore, remains gloriously incomplete. Every potential discovery promises not just to fill in a blank on a schematic, but to add another sentence to a lost chapter of human history, reminding us that some conversations with the past are never truly finished. This single artifact rewrites the narrative of scientific progress. The Antikythera mechanism stands as irrefutable proof that the ancient world was capable of a level of applied engineering we never credited it with. We often picture Hellenistic science as a realm of brilliant but abstract thought, of philosophers debating under colonnades and astronomers charting the stars on parchment. This machine shatters that quiet image. It shows us thinkers who are also builders, who took those complex theories off the page and forged them into moving, tangible reality. The gap between conceptual understanding and physical invention was, for them, not a barrier but a challenge to be met with exquisite craftsmanship. This forces a dramatic reassessment, moving ancient science from a catalogue of ideas into a workshop of astonishingly sophisticated practice. That realization casts a long and unsettling shadow over the centuries that followed. The so-called Dark Ages appear, in one crucial way, even darker. We have long understood this period as one of social fragmentation and a decline in centralized learning, but the mechanism suggests something more profound, a catastrophic loss of specific, high-level knowledge. The intricate understanding of gear ratios, the metallurgical skill to cast and finish such tiny components, the very idea of modeling the cosmos with clockwork, all of this seems to have evaporated from the common technological repertoire for over 1,000 years. It is a stark reminder that knowledge is not a ladder we only climb upward. It is a library that can burn. Entire wings of that library, filled with mechanical genius, were lost, leaving later generations to reinvent concepts that had already been perfected long before. This expands our entire view of history. It shows that peaks of human innovation can be astonishingly high, yet tragically isolated. A civilization can reach a summit of technical artistry, only to have that knowledge become trapped in time, like a message in a bottle waiting for a future age to wash it ashore. The mechanism urges a deep humility about our own technological permanence. We live in an era of seemingly relentless advancement, where each generation builds upon the last. We assume our accumulated knowledge is secure, digitized and backed up across the globe, but the silent story of this bronze computer whispers a cautionary tale. It asks us to consider what pillars of our own understanding might be more fragile than they appear, and what could be lost in a turn of fortune's wheel. Ultimately, it sparks a thrilling and endless wonder. If this one device survived purely by chance, preserved by a shipwreck and discovered by a storm, what else might have vanished without a single trace? What other advanced concepts, what other beautiful machines, were crafted in those ancient workshops only to be melted down, broken apart, or simply forgotten? The Antikythera mechanism is therefore more than an ancient calculator. It is a key to a door we never knew was closed. It opens our imagination to a richer, more complex, and far more ingenious past, challenging us to look at every faded inscription and every corroded artifact with new eyes, always wondering what other echoes of genius might still be waiting, silent and patient, for their moment to speak again. Such a profound object inevitably attracts layers of myth. In popular retellings, the Antikythera mechanism is sometimes described as a time machine, or its sophistication is attributed to impossible sources, suggesting it was a gift from advanced visitors or a relic of a lost super-civilization. While these stories are captivating, they ultimately do a disservice to the real wonder. To truly honor its creators, we must gently separate the solid archaeological science from the sensational speculation. The mechanism did not predict the future in any general or mystical sense. It could not foretell personal fate or historical events. What it did, with breathtaking precision, was calculate future astronomical positions based on meticulously understood cycles. This is a crucial distinction. It was not a crystal ball. It was a cosmic calendar built on 2 centuries of recorded observations and brilliant mathematics. Furthermore, it was not a digital computer in any modern sense. It contained no code, no silicon, no electrical circuits. Its intelligence was purely analog and mechanical, a physical embodiment of mathematical relationships where the turning of a gear was the calculation. By clearing away these modern projections, we can see the device for what it truly was, and in doing so, appreciate its achievement more deeply. The reality is more impressive than any myth. This was a compact, hand-powered planetarium, a portable universe engineered from bronze and wood. Its true magic lies in the fact that it encoded the collective wisdom of an entire scientific tradition, blending Babylonian data with Greek theory into a single, beautiful, and functional machine. That synthesis of knowledge from across the ancient world, made tangible and operable by a turn of the wrist, represents a human triumph that needs no extraterrestrial explanation. It stands as a testament to what the keen observation of nature, coupled with relentless curiosity and masterful craft, can achieve. The real mystery is not how aliens built it, but how we forgot that our own ancestors could. To place this device in its proper context, we must look across the globe at other ancient marvels of engineering. The Islamic world perfected elaborate water clocks, intricate timekeeping devices that used regulated flows of water to move automata and sound gongs, marking the hours with hydraulic precision. In ancient China, astronomers crafted complex armillary spheres, bronze rings that mapped the celestial equator and the paths of stars, instruments of profound observational power. And in Mesoamerica, civilizations built massive stone calendars, like the great Aztec sunstone, which encoded vast cycles of time in monumental sculpture. Each of these achievements is a testament to human ingenuity, a brilliant solution to the universal need to track and understand time. Yet, when we place the Antikythera mechanism beside them, a crucial distinction emerges. Those other technologies, however grand, largely operated on a single principle or tracked a dominant cycle. The water clock measured the flow of a constant resource. The armillary sphere was a physical model of the sky's geometry. The stone calendar was a fixed, permanent record of cosmic cycles. The Greek device did something fundamentally different. It integrated multiple, independent astronomical cycles, the Saros, the Metonic, the Callippic, and the complex motions of planets, into a single, unified mechanical system. It achieved this not on a monumental scale, but through breathtaking miniaturization, compressing a cosmic model into a box you could hold. The complexity of its internal gearing, with differential systems and sub-millimeter teeth designed to interact with flawless synchronization, has no parallel in the ancient artifacts we have found. This comparison does not diminish other cultures, but it sharply defines the unique synthesis that produced the mechanism. It was the marriage of a very specific Greek passion for geometrical theory, the idea that the universe could be described by perfect circles and ratios, with an unparalleled mastery of metalworking. Other civilizations had the observational data or the monumental ambition. The Hellenistic world had the drive to take that data and theory and forge it into a dynamic, portable simulation. It stands alone not because it was more important, but because it was a different kind of intellectual artifact, a working hypothesis cast in bronze, a clockwork universe in a wooden case. That final legacy rests on the shoulders of a person we will never know. We can reconstruct the gear trains and decode the inscriptions, but the mind that first dreamed this cosmic machine remains a silhouette against history's light. This creator, or more likely this small team of creators, represents a convergence of genius so rare it feels almost mythical. To bring this device into being required a symphony of disciplines held within a single workshop. One individual needed the mind of an astronomer, capable of internalizing the precise, multi-year cycles of celestial bodies. They needed the soul of a mathematician, to reduce those grand celestial rhythms to elegant, expressible ratios, numbers that could be translated into the tooth counts of gears. They needed the hands of a master metallurgist, understanding how to mix copper and tin into a bronze that could be cast flawlessly yet remain strong enough to bear the stress of turning, and the patience of a consummate engraver, inscribing a universe of information onto surfaces smaller than a palm. Picture the moment of conception, a quiet revelation in a sunlit workshop. This person held in their mind not just the theory of epicycles or the Saros, but the physical reality of interlocking circles. They had to mentally walk through a three-dimensional puzzle, visualizing how one gear's turn would be divided by another, then added to a third by a differential system, all to make a single pointer advance the correct amount along a dial. This was spatial reasoning of the highest order, performed without computer-aided design, relying on geometric intuition and sheer intellectual force. Then came the translation from mind to material. With no lathes or milling machines, every component began as a wax model shaped by hand, guided by an eye trained to judge fractions of a millimeter. The casting process was an act of faith, pouring molten metal into a clay mold and hoping no bubble or flaw ruined a week's work. The final finishing of each gear tooth with a delicate file was a meditation in precision, a slow, careful conversation between artisan and metal until it meshed with its neighbor in silent, perfect harmony. What drove this immense effort we can rule out mere utility. A simple parapegma, a peg calendar, could track festivals. A basic sundial told the time. This machine was an act of profound intellectual passion. It was built because the universe presented a beautiful, ordered puzzle, and the human spirit, in its most curious and creative form, cannot resist solving a beautiful puzzle. The creator was likely driven by a deep desire not just to know, but to demonstrate, to make the invisible logic of the cosmos visible and operable. In a very real sense, they were building a philosophical argument, a tangible proof that the heavens operated by comprehensible mechanical law. Every perfectly meshed gear was a statement of belief in a rational cosmos. This shift in perspective, from marveling at an ancient artifact to honoring the anonymous intelligence behind it, changes everything. The Antikythera mechanism stops being a mysterious relic from a vague past. It becomes a personal triumph, a monument not to a faceless civilization, but to the limitless potential of a single focused mind, or a small group of collaborating minds when ignited by wonder. It reminds us that history's greatest leaps are not made by eras or cultures in the abstract, but by individuals who dare to ask how, and then possess the rare blend of vision and skill to craft an answer. Their names are lost, but their work still turns, a silent, enduring testament to what humanity can achieve when curiosity is married to craftsmanship, and the desire to understand the stars is forged into bronze. The Antikythera mechanism is a bridge across time. It connects our modern world of silicon and code directly to a workshop where a master artisan, 2,000 years ago, filed the final tooth on a bronze gear and knew it would turn in harmony with the stars. This device is more than an archaeological wonder, it is a conversation. When we look at its reconstructed dials, we are not just seeing ancient engineering, we are witnessing a particular moment in the human spirit, a moment when curiosity crystallized into a tangible, turning model of the universe. It teaches us a profound and humbling lesson about the nature of discovery. Scientific progress is not the steady, upward climb we often imagine. It is a story written in flashes of brilliant insight, some of which glow with astonishing intensity only to fade from common knowledge, waiting patiently in the dark for a future generation to stumble upon their light once more. This single artifact forces us to expand our view of history. We must now picture a past where the line between philosopher and engineer was beautifully blurred, where understanding the cosmos meant building a small, perfect copy of it. As we reflect on this 2,000-year-old predictor of the heavens, let it inspire a specific kind of awe, not just for what was built, but for the boundless curiosity that built it. Let it foster humility, a recognition that our own towering edifice of knowledge rests on foundations we have only partially uncovered, and that great libraries of understanding can indeed be lost. And ultimately, let it fuel excitement, for if this one machine survived purely by chance, preserved by a shipwreck and discovered by a storm, What other echoes of ancient genius still lie hidden, silent and patient, in the sands and seas of history? Each undiscovered fragment is a promise, a potential key to another door we never knew was closed. The story of the Antikythera mechanism is not finished, and the next chapter is waiting for us to find it.